YouTube. It's been a little while, but I'm back with some stuff I've been up to, some stuff I've been consuming in my mind. And let's get right to it because, as you know, space constraints on my device. What a world we live in. First up, we're going to start with a couple books. This one I've been wanting to read for, I don't know how long it's been, but since this book first came out, maybe a couple years ago or so. And I thought it was a cool kind of idea. And well, let's just show it to you. It's called From a Certain Point of View. I totally blanked on it. I was like, I knew what it was called, but I couldn't recall what it was called because I'm old. From a Certain Point of View. This revolves all around the original Star Wars movie, A New Hope, and it all these different names on the sides are all the different authors that contribute a short story for it. And it basically tells a short story from the point of view of somebody involved in that first Star Wars movie. But not necessarily so. It's funny. So a lot of it is more minor characters that you see on screen for maybe a minute or whatever. Like TK421, why aren't you at your post? That stormtrooper, he tells his story of the day and the events that happened. The Moff and that Vader force chokes in the meeting with Tarkin and stuff like that. The Jawas that capture R2-D2 and C-3PO on Tatooine. Like, so all these little minor characters that contribute to the movie but aren't main characters and really have little screen time. Then there's also some major characters like Tarkin. You figure out kind of what some of his motivations are. Who else? Kind of not so major, but Captain Antilles, the guy who pilots the Tantive for the rebel ship that you very first see at the start of the Star Wars movie and is kind of in charge of Leia's mission and stuff like that. So all these minor and major characters. Obi-Wan Kenobi is a really good story on Tatooine. And Yoda on Dagobah as he converses with Obi-Wan after Obi-Wan becomes one with the Force and Yoda, talks to his old friend there. So lots of minor and major characters, some of them who are in the movie, most of them who are in the movie, some who are not, like Yoda. He doesn't make an appearance until Empire Strikes Back, but in this story you kind of learn what he's doing and stuff during the events of Star Wars. Some of them are characters that you wouldn't expect. Like, remember the mouse droid that runs when Chewbacca goes and then he takes off? You learn what that mouse droid's day was like leading up to those events. Same thing with the Dianoga, the weird alien that lives in the trash compactor that sucks Luke under the water. You learn where it was originally from, how it came to be on the Death Star, and that it's not just a freak creature, it's a living, thinking being in its motivations and stuff like that. And then you learn stuff about other characters that are just made up. There's not too many of these, there's just one or two. And my favorite example of this is when Princess Leia says the base, the rebels, they're on Dantooine, right? And she gives Tarkin that false lead about where the rebels' base were, or was, or is. There's actually a scavenger on Dantooine, which the rebels did have a base on Dantooine, but not at the time that during the events of Star Wars. So the rebels had long since vacated it. So we meet a scavenger who's picking over the remnants of their base, and she happens to be there and gets caught up with the Imperials, who go and investigate the remnants of the base after Leia gives them that lead, sort of thing. So you learn kind of what her day was like when she encountered the Imperials and stuff like that. So it's all these little stories that just give these little insights into the different characters and kind of paint more of a picture for the movie and stuff like that. And just a really cool book. And they actually have done one for Empire now as well, and I don't think it's out in paperback yet, so I will be getting it eventually and reading that. So next up, the second book of the Firefly series, called, God, what's this one called? The Magnificent Nine. I'm totally like blanking on everything. It's late, or late for me. In this story, the Firefly crew are kind of between jobs as usual, and they're looking for work and they're looking for money, an opportunity. And this story takes place between the end of the Firefly series and the start of the Serenity movie that came afterwards, that kind of buttoned things off a little. And in it, Jane gets a message from an old flame of his named Temperance, and she lives on a world called 80’s now, and a simple backwater out in the middle of nowhere kind of world that's on a hot planet, and her town, her small town of Coogan's Bluff, I think it's called, has run into trouble. This real savage guy named Elias Vandal has moved in with his gang of scourers, and they're threatening to take the town's water supply and basically hold them ransom unless they pay them for the water, sort of thing. So they're basically ransoming the town for what they already use there and have, right? So Temperance sends a wave to Jane and asks for his help. So eventually they convince Mal that this is something good they should do for people, and out of the goodness of their heart, and the crew races off to 80’s to help Temperance. In the process, they get shot down. Serenity crashes on the planet, and from there on, it's a kind of battle for survival as the Serenity crew meets this Vandal guy, tries to work things out, doesn't take, so then they have to take matters into their own hands and do things a little more violently. And it's kind of this back and forth with Vandal and his scourers and the crew of the Firefly as plans come and go and revelations come and go. Temperance has a daughter named Jane, Jane, and people are like, well, obviously that's Jane's daughter, and he has no clue. So there's all these little things that happen over the course of the story that kind of help build the suspense and build the culmination of the end of this story into kind of one big finale sort of thing. So, but the comments on the back of the books from reviewers are like, reads just like a lost episode of the show, and it really does. They've done a really good job of kind of capturing the spirit of the Firefly show within the pages of these books. And I'm not gonna lie, these things read like just page turn, page turn, page turn. You know, some books you love this book just as much as you love this book, but this book's way much easier to read than this other one for whatever reason. I don't know why that happens, but some books you just fly through, and other books you don't, even though you like them the same sort of thing. So this series, this Firefly series, these first two books I found, I just fly through. So really good stuff. Next up, I had this movie taped to VHS from when it appeared on cable back when I was a kid in the 80's. And I used to watch the bejesus out of it. And when my friends came over and stuff, I would make them watch it. And we all grew to really like this movie. But it's been a long, long time. I've lost that tape a long time ago. And or recorded over it with some episodes of The Simpsons, who knows. And it's been a long time since I saw this movie. So when it popped into my head, I ordered it on Amazon and watched it with James a short while ago. And it is called The Dream Team. This is a Michael Keaton movie from, I think, the mid to late 80's, something like that. It focuses on four guys at a insane asylum in New Jersey. Billy, played by Michael Keaton, is a chronological liar, and he's prone to outbursts of rage and gets pissed off real fast. But he's the most sane of these four guys. Henry has some sort of OCD and delusions and stuff. He thinks he's actually a doctor at the hospital, and he's always pushing Billy's buttons and trying to control this little group of four. Jack, played by Peter Boyle, who is Frank Barone from Everybody Loves Raymond, is a former ad executive or something like that, and he now believes he is Jesus Christ. And then the other guy, the fourth guy, was it Andy? What's his name? Albert. He is kind of a big, kind of shy doofus guy who can only communicate using baseball sayings. So he's kind of hard to deal with. And Henry, the second guy that thinks he's a doctor, is played by Christopher Lloyd from Back to the Future fame and all that stuff. So their doctor at the insane asylum thinks that it would be good for these four guys to kind of have an outing outside the hospital, to see something different, see the world, get some different experiences, and help bring them out of their shell a bit. So he plans a trip for them to go to a Yankees game. they're all kind of excited to various degrees. Some a lot more than others, and but they embark on this journey, and Albert has to end up taking a leak. They pull over at a gas station in downtown New York. The guy's like, "No way, use the alley." Albert goes into the alley with the doctor. Albert kind of wanders away. The doctor goes after him, and then witnesses two corrupt cops murdering another cop. And in the race to get away from these two corrupt cops, he gets kind of beaten up a little bit, knocked unconscious. Cops come, ambulance comes, take him away to the hospital, leaving these four crazy guys on their own in the middle of New York City. So they all kind of argue and whatever and go their separate ways. And in the process of going their separate ways, have to kind of confront their past. Billy meets an old girlfriend and realizes he kind of wants her back and wants to improve his life a little. Henry has to go back eventually to see his wife and his daughter, and kind of gains a bit of perspective there when he does that. Jack meets his old some co-workers at the old ad agency and is provoked into being a bit more normal. And then Albert's Albert, and in the end they kind of have to come back together after all this adversity in order to save their doctor from, because these two cops, finding out that this doc's still alive, they want to snuff him out because he witnessed the crime, right? So these four crazy guys have to prevent these cops from doing that, bring the truth to light, and save their doctor, all the while being branded the fugitives who actually laid the beating on their own doctor during the whole process. So it's a really, really, really funny movie, and it's held up really well. I love 80s movies because they just have that certain feel. The acting, the music, the kind of the different sequences involved in those types of movies. It's just got that 80s taste to it and vibe, and I just love it because that's when I grew up, and the 80s left a big impression on me. So watching this all these years later, and seeing James enjoy it just as much as I did was kind of cool to watch, right? So very awesome movie. Next up, for the PS4, Contra Rogue Corps. This is the weirdest Contra game I've ever played. It's set, I think, a couple years after Contra 3, The Alien Wars, which I believe Simon and I did in our Bill 69 series, if I'm not mistaken. And it brings four characters from past Contra games, although I didn't recognize any of them, into this story where a couple years after the Alien Wars, wherever they are in this city, it's kind of become a post-apocalyptic kind of wasteland where all these weird mutants called fiends keep generating and scouring the land with their destruction and their evil ways. And so these and anybody who goes near these fiends and into this area kind of goes mad and turns mutant and whatever. But these four characters are somehow naturally immune to that effect. So they're kind of humanity's last hope to shut this area down and get to the bottom of whatever's going on and kill this threat, right? And so you take control of one of these characters and go in and try and do that. It's got that top-down kind of look, which some of the older Contra games, they had that kind of odd level that would be like that. And although I like it, it's one of those games. It's kind of like Fortnite and stuff like that, where there's so much of the game is focused on, okay, you need to get this weapon, upgrade it, and do this and that, and there's so much fucking around with your weaponry and your skills and your whatever, your XP and all that stuff. There's just too much to it, and that applied to this game. There's just your weapon and then your sub weapon, and how you could upgrade it and change it and get XP to bring it up levels and stuff like that. It seems like you need to put in as much time figuring the game out and frigging around with all these parts of your character than you actually do playing the game, right? And that's a big thing I like about the older consoles. There wasn't any downloadable material and updates and stuff like that. You put the cartridge in, press power, the game is what it is, you get what you get. There's none of this nonsense about spending all this time upgrading weapons and stuff, right? You just plug it in, press start, play, and when you're done, turn it off. I just find there's too much focus on that kind of thing now, and it takes away from the actual fun of the game. And this Contra game had that, and so although I did enjoy playing the game, I just found there was too much fucking around with that kind of stuff, and it wasn't obvious in how exactly to do it most effectively. And that's another thing I don't like now is you don't get a goddamn instruction booklet with your game. It's, electronically on the thing. You got to go looking for it and whatever. And it's like, you know what? No. So did I enjoy playing this game? Yes. Was it amazing? No. All the Contra games that came before it are better than this one. Let's just say that. And there was a lot of repetition to this game too. You played the same kind of levels over and over again, just with different kind of situations within it, sort of thing, each level. So I'm glad I got it. I'm glad I got it cheaper, but it's nothing to write home about. Let's just say that. Last up, this one is something to write home about because it's another game in the Ratchet and Clank series called Ratchet Deadlocked. This one was for the PS2, and it's the fourth game in the Ratchet and Clank franchise, and the last one on the PS2 before they started making them on the PS3. And it's a bit of a different format. The first three Ratchet and Clank games were kind of story driven, and you kind of went through the story and went to each world and back to worlds if you had to and whatever, and it was you and Clank doing it. In this one, after the events of the third game, which is called Going Commando? No, Up Your Arsenal was the third game. And your home base there was the Starship Phoenix, the big dreadnought, where you'd go back between missions and you could upgrade stuff and talk to your mission leader. I forget what her name is. So at the end of that game and the start of this game, you're kind of in command of the Phoenix now, you and Clank, and it's your ship and your crew to command. But the ship gets invaded by these, I don't know what they are, but they get invaded, you get taken captive, and I forget the guy's name, but there's this kind of sleazy kind of guy that runs this game show called Dread Zone, and it's like picture the Running Man. It's this game show where people perform these challenges and violent challenges and kill each other, and you basically win by surviving, right? So they take Ratchet and Clank and their scientist buddy Al captive, and force Ratchet to participate in this Dread Zone game. And so Clank serves as kind of his mission boss. Al does upgrading for his suit and stuff like that. And then aiding Ratchet on his missions are two robotic companions that help him along the way. So it's basically you're playing in Dread Zone the entire time through this game and going from world to world and doing these different kind of challenges within this Dread Zone game. And as you do this, you become a favorite for all the Dread Zone fans, and this makes Ace Hardlight, the current game's champion, jealous. And so events lead you along until you have a final showdown with Ace Hardlight, and beat him down and become the ultimate Dread Zone champion. And then when the boss of the Dread Zone, I can't remember his name, he congratulates you at the end of it all, and he's gonna make you the ultimate star of Dread Zone and stuff. And you say, "No, man, this is crazy. I'm out. I'm not killing anybody else or whatever." And then that's when, of course, you have to then square off against the bad guy that runs Dread Zone and gain your freedom and put that whole thing to a stop, sort of thing. So, awesome game, a lot of fun, and I found that it was. I think the first three games were all very similar in style and stuff like that, in terms of how the game played, and the format of it. So I think they found they probably needed to make a change, and this was making a change, but not making too big of a change and making it crazy. It was enough of a change that it was really different from the first three games, and it was kind of a fresh take. But everything about the Ratchet and Clank experience stayed the same, in terms of all your different kinds of weapons and leveling them up and obtaining them, and the gameplay itself was the same as in the original games, and it added some new stuff in, like your robot buddies. You didn't have Clank with you anymore. You could upgrade your robot buddies was another thing that you could upgrade besides your weapons and your axe. So it kept a lot of things the same with a different format and a different type of story, and added some new stuff as well. So it was a really, really fresh take on Ratchet and Clank, and I had a lot of fun playing. playing it, and I got through it pretty quickly because it was a really fun game to play. So, and the next ones I'll be playing are on the PS3. So, hopefully I'll be starting one of those soon, but you never know. So that is all for now. I'll be back with some more at some point in the future. Until then, stay frosty.